we're going to start a topic that I actually love. It's one of my favorite things about chemistry. It's balancing chemical equations. And so we're going to learn how to look at these chemical equations and make sure that our equation is balanced and that it is something that would work in real life. The problem with this section is that sometimes it is a little bit hard for students and it takes some practice. So don't be discouraged if the first time you do this, it's a little bit hard. I'm going to make this video that's going to be fairly short explaining the concept, and then I'm going to make another video of me working through a bunch of practice problems so that you can get the practice that you need. And you can decide how many of those you'd like to do, how much of the videos you'd like to watch. But this video will just be a basic explanation of how to do these problems, and then the next video will just be a bunch of practice problems that you can work on, okay? So, the first thing, I definitely write down this title, Balancing Chemical Equations, and write down this formula. You don't need to write these dots down here, but just get these things written down. Pause the video if you don't have them written down yet, and I'm going to start explaining what these dots are down here. So what these dots are is these two blue dots represent H2. So we know hydrogen, it has two hydrogens in this molecule, so it's two hydrogens bonded together, two blue dots. This one is two oxygens bonded together, so that's two red dots. Now this molecule over here is water, it's H2O, so we have one oxygen up top and then two hydrogens that are bonded to it. So this is what this molecule looks like. Now let's write the number of hydrogens and oxygens on each side of our arrow. So on this side of our arrow, we have two hydrogens, and on this side of our arrow we have two oxygens, and then over on the other side of our arrow we have two hydrogens, and over here we have one oxygen. Now if you're forgetting how to get that, remember these numbers down here tell you how many of each one we have. So here we had 2, 2, and then on this side when we had that 2 up here, 2 goes for here. If it doesn't have a number by it like the O, that just means it's a 1. Now you'll notice that on either side of the arrows, our numbers don't quite match up. We have 2 and 2 for hydrogen, so that works, but our oxygens are a little bit off. And in our chemical equation, we can't have it not be balanced. We can't just lose one of these oxygens somewhere random. We have to have it all balanced out. So to do that, we have to look at these numbers and think, what number can I multiply this one to get it to equal this number over here? So to do that, think in your head, 1 times what equals 2? Hopefully this is pretty easy math today. So it's going to be 1 times 2 equals 2. Now, if you ever, let me actually write this in a different color so it's easier. But if you ever multiply something at the bottom here, you have to make sure to add this number up by the molecule up top here. So up top here, we need to add a 2 here because we added it to this H2O, to that oxygen. Now, since the 2 is in front of this whole H2O molecule, we can't just times the oxygen. We also have to actually end up timesing our hydrogen by 2 as well. So we get 4. Now if we check to see if our equation is balanced, we see we have 2 hydrogens on this side, and now we have 4 hydrogens on that side. So it's not balanced still. So we have to multiply hydrogen now by something to get to 4. So lucky we know 2 times 2 equals 4. And remember, if I put something down here, I have to put it over here. So since we did 2 to the hydrogen, we put a 2 in front of our hydrogen. So now we have 2 and 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So we have 4 hydrogens here, 4 hydrogens here, and then we have 2 oxygens here and 2 oxygens here. So now our whole equation is going to be balanced. So this means that when we are combining this equation together, we actually take 2 H2O molecules, so 2 of these blue pairs, with 1 of those red pairs, and then we end up with 2 different H2O molecules at the end. So that's a little visual representation if that's something that's better for you to see. That you can see how we had to have 4 over here to combine with 2 of these to get, 4 blue dots and 2 red dots, or 2 H2O molecules in total. Alright, we're going to do one more practice, and you can see if you feel like you're super confident and you want to go try the homework. If not, I definitely watch the other video because I'm going to do some trickier problems that are going to be seen on your homework and on your test. So this will be another kind of easier one to see if we can get to the hang of it. So we're going to do K plus I2 with our arrow, and it's going to go to KI. Alright, so let's start by doing our balancing on each side. So we're going to have K on this side and I on this side. Some people kind of like to do these T charts that look like this. You can do whatever you feel like. So we're going to have K over here and I over here. Alright, Let's start on this left side right here. K's, remember we look for this little number down here at the bottom of each one. So we see K doesn't have a number, so that means 1. We see I has the number 2, so it's a 2. We see K doesn't have a number again, so it's a 1. We see I doesn't have a number again, so it's also a 1. So now we have to see if they're going to be balanced. So 1 and 1 for K's, that's good. So we have 2 here, and we only have 1 here for the I. So what we have to do is we have to add up adding or multiplying a number. So here, we're trying to get to 2 I's, so we do 1 times 2 equals 2. Now again, if we add a number here, we have to make sure we add it up here next to the Ki. Also, just as a note, you can't ever add it in between. Like, you can't put it in between there. It always has to go next to it. Always, always, always. You can't put it in between the molecule and split the molecule. Always needs to go before for the whole molecule. So, we did 1 times 2 equals 2. So, since we times it by 2, we put a 2 up here. Since we're putting a 2 there, we know that the 2 goes with our I, but the 2 also goes with our K since it's at the front. So now we have to do 1 times 2 for your K to get 2. So we now check our equation. We see we have I is 2, perfect. We have K is 1 and K is 2. So that is off. So we have to get this K now to equal 2 to match that K. So we're going to do 1, we're going to times it by 2 to get it to be 2, and we're going to put the 2 up in front of the K. So this is your balanced equation. Like I said, we're going to be doing some trickier ones. They won't always be dealing with 2's. There'll be some extra molecules added sometimes. So make sure to watch the other videos. But hopefully this is a good explanation intro video that makes you feel like you will be able to understand this and feel confident in your abilities.